at the police department, and Julie, the commissioner, was nice enough to keep the trucks over there in the office. So we had a sergeant that was working with them. Although they were under us, they were at Parks. Since then, July of this year, we have physically moved them entirely from the Parks Department to the police department over at Erie East. So bodies, trucks, the phone lines, which was a problem. The transition is complete as of July of 2021. Dog control is entirely with us at this point. So as far as staffing goes, currently right now we have one dog control clerk that answers the phone, dispatches essentially, 3 dog control officers with 1 vacancy. We have 4 that are budgeted. We only have 3 that are full, 1 being the vacancy. And that vacancy has been around for over a year at this point. And the reason we have not been able to fill that is because there is a grievance filed by the union, a middle manager's grievance, that says their claim is that the dog control officers have to be supervised by a civilian and not a police supervisor. So that's been going on for just over a year.
What's the logic there, Chief, about the supervision needing to be
the logic of the
civilian?
grievance is that they feel that the dog control officers should be supervised by a civilian, not a police sergeant. I don't know how much I can get into, but our contention is that the work that the dog control officers do, making tickets for the city ordinances, doing police reports, need a supervisor reviewing those and supervising them. So that is ongoing. I tried to get an update from Corp Counsel today. I don't have a real good one. I think COVID has really slowed down the COVID process, the grievance process through 2020. But that has prevented us from filling that spot.
I guess the confusion, at least I'm sort of confused, because, that's the whole purpose of why one of the reasons why we moved dog control from Parks to police.
That would be our contention as well.
Yeah.
But it is, that's the grievance though. And we've held that position vacant because if we have to get a supervisor, we'll have to use the funding from that vacancy in order to fill the supervisor position and not the dog control position. So it's got us back down to a little bit of a limited. We're running about 75%. Short notice, I can get you more stats. But I got these with the civilian holiday yesterday. I did the best I could. So as far as stray dogs recovered year to date this year, 217 stray dogs at dog control. Animal cruelty animals seized was 198. So that's over 400 animals seized year to date this year. To give you a comparison, we seized 190 this time, or for all of 2020. So over twice as many animals seized in 2021 compared to all of 2020. The Sergeant Kramer.
Sorry, Chief, I can interrupt you. So
yeah.
How does that because obviously 2020 was an anomaly year because of COVID and everything. Is that also, is 2020 comparable to 2019, 18 years where we didn't have the COVID situation?
I apologize. I will get you those numbers. I knew that question was coming.
Yeah.
I just don't have it.
No, it's no problem. No problem.
Yeah.
I'm just curious if we're kind of doubling what we do in an average year, or
So 2020 was high. That's
Yeah,
conceivably.
And I don't know, and I hate to throw you on the bus, but in 2019 and 18, it was under Parks. So I'm sure that data exists. I just don't have access to it.
You guys don't have it. That makes sense.
I will get it.
Okay.
Okay.
No worries.
All right. Total tickets issued year to date is around 44. I think that's higher than that right now. Incident reports 454. Total last year was 236. So we're doubling all of our numbers in 2021 for the most part. And I don't have comparable numbers. So far, dog bite incidents, because I know that's something of a question right now. We've had 42 dog bite incidents so far this year, and I don't have comparable numbers last year, and I can get that. And 2 dogs seized and euthanized as a result of those dog bite incidents. So again, I know the data is a little sketchy as far as what I can provide to you right now. I found out about this meeting late last week, and with the civilian holiday yesterday, I just wasn't able to pull that comparable data, but I can get that for you, obviously. That's what I had prepared as far as where we were, where we are now, and some of the data. I guess my point to the data was, for what I do have, we're way up compared to 2021, and we're down in staffing. So I kind of wanted to make that draw.
Councilman Jake, do you have questions you want to start with? Yeah, so I have numerous questions. What was, Julie, do you know what the staffing numbers were when it was under Parks? Is 4 staff members?
It's always been 4, whether they were full or not. It was 5 when I first started, but it's been consistent.
So about consistent numbers, okay. And I guess, so this has been when I first got on council, I met with Corporation Council a lot to, and I don't know if this is off topic, Councilman Majuk, but while we have you here and we're talking about this, I'd be curious to hear from those officers if you feel like the laws on the books are adequate. I had, some personal situations. I had a loose dog in my neighborhood that attacked my neighbor's dog. I was the first one on the scene, and the dog continued to get out and wander around the neighborhood to the point where most of my neighbors were scared to walk their dog because it just became a frequent thing that this pit bull and this Rottweiler were around the neighborhood and they were out for blood. And it just seemed to me that there was very little that could be done from, based on the legal statutes of what we have on the books that we could really create repercussions for these folks, and ensure that the incident never happened again. For me, I thought if a dog, and I understand there's a lot of gray area in there, right? Because if you have a poodle that's kind of snappy versus a pit bull, it's a different kettle of fish, but the law has to remain the same for all animals and blah, 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 blah. So it's a complicated one, I understand, but I thought at least something like, discipline training or something to ensure, and I'm hearing about it again in Eastwood right now. There's a house on Sunnycrest where they keep, they're not putting up sufficient fencing. The dog keeps getting out. Again, it's an aggressive dog, a pit bull or something, one of these breeds that's really, so I'd be really curious to hear if your officers who are working the ground feel that, there's some, from the legislator's perspective, I wanted to find some new laws or some new ways to deal with this because I feel like it's insufficient repercussions for those who repeatedly let their dogs out, because it can be a potentially fatal situation or, and doesn't seem like there's a lot of repercussions for those that are irresponsible letting their dogs out, especially when it happens multiple times. So was just curious, your thoughts or any
Sure.
I see you have one other officer with you. From the ground perspective, do you feel like you have all the tools you need in the chest, or is there something that we could collaborate on to make those laws more effective, stricter, stronger punishments for those who aren't being responsible owners?
Sure. So I definitely have an officer, Officer Hassett here, and I can ask her to step up. But it is a case-by-case basis. How we evaluate whether we seize a dog depends on the circumstances. But I will let her speak to what's on the books and how they can enforce it and what they feel can be different.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Officer Hassett. I'm with Animal Cruelty. I work hand in hand with dog control. We do have repetitive cases where dogs are getting loose, not always vicious. Like, for instance, we have this one husky that gets loose, and we got loose like 6 times, ticket after ticket after ticket. We kind of leave it up to the courts because there's not really much we can do but keep handing out tickets. So it goes up to the courts and not us. There's only so much we can do.
Exactly,
We keep
yeah.
handing out tickets, but I mean, this guy still gets his dog back each time. He pays the fee to get out the shelter, but there's really, our hands are tied. We do our part, we give the ticket out, and he's had probably 10 plus tickets the last couple months with his dog just getting loose.
Wow.
Is that a vicious dog? No. But does it keep happening? Yes.
Yeah.
We can't just seize the dog and take it, but you can't get it back because there's no laws regarding that,
Yeah.
unfortunately. So our hands are tied with what we can do.
Well, perhaps we could set up a time to sit down and talk further because, from the council perspective, we set the,
Yeah, I was gonna ask,
We-
how much is,
that's
the
up-
ticket, the fine that's,
The fines, I don't know.
Okay.
Honestly, I have no idea. I know the shelter fines are, with BNR, is $20 a day.
yeah, but we probably have our own.
As
tick-
far as
with the
city
ticket.
fines, I honestly have no idea.
Yeah.
yeah, it would be something that we as the council could take up and introduce something new, so if, you know, because that really upsets me to hear that someone's done it 10 times, and, you know, the resources that are being used by SPD, the potential danger to the dog, the potential danger to the neighborhood, it's really irresponsible behavior, and I think we need to apply, you know, stricter fines, or, you know, something more, you know, something more of a deterrent to create, you know. So if maybe some of you and the other officers would like to sit down and we could learn how that, you know, because all I know is that the dog, you know, I had multiple dogs in my neighborhood that kept getting out, kept attacking other dogs, kept attacking people, and it just seemed like there was.
A lot of times we get the deposition, because I mean, usually need that anyways, unless it's like a loose dog that we observe, we do need deposition for that.
Yeah.
And then it can be notarized, so that takes time. But
Yeah.
It's usually just a ticket issue.
Yeah.
As far as any other punishment, that's a higher level.
Yeah, perhaps we could look at that together, and if you guys could explain to us exactly how the operations roll out and what we could change from the city's code perspective, because from my perspective, I felt the laws were lacking; they were insufficient. Not blaming, you know, SPD, because you guys can only do, you know, use the tools that are available to you. But you know, that's kind of where we come in as the council. We could perhaps rewrite some of these to get, you know, more penalties on the books to deter these people. I would really love to do that if you guys would be up for it.
And maybe we can handle it the same way we did the dirt bike.
Yeah,
ATV
exactly.
ordinance. Get together with Corp Council, we'll pull the existing ordinances and whatever fines exist. And
Yeah.
go from there.
That'd be great. I would love to do that. And I'm sorry if I took too long, Councilor Majuk, but yeah, that's been something that's been gnawing at me since I got in office, or since I started running in 2017. It drives me nuts when you have those repeat offenders in a neighborhood and you have all the neighbors reaching out to you and saying they're not putting up proper fencing, the dog keeps getting out, it attacked this one dog, and then it's, you know, and sometimes people run away and they're scared and then there's no attack that happens, but it's, you know, it's still, it's a hazard in the neighborhood that people aren't dealing with, you know, so I would love to put in more regulations in place, my big thing.
Yeah, I'll talk to the law department. Let's do something.
Yeah, let's all get together on it, like Chief Trudell was saying, let's pull up the existing ones and see what we can work out. I would love to see stricter fines and stricter enforcement.
Yeah, I think the last time, you know, again, I think the last probably dog legislation, unless anything was repealed, was probably 89 or 91 when the other Carney passed it.
Right.
It was like dangerous dog legislation that, yeah, I think it was passed in like maybe 91, 92. And that's, I think, the only, because when I was chairing parks, that's looking back and we were talking about moving all this stuff over, a lot of it ultimately fell under you folks anyway, so it made sense to move from parks to police, so.
Well, let's get something done while you're still here, shall we?
Sure.
So just a quick question.
Sure.
Are these 4 officers, are they all uniform officers?
They're not uniformed like this, but
Yeah.
they do have a uniform.
Okay.
It's a polo and a khaki pants or
Okay.
green pants.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can definitely tell who they are.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
But they're not armed and they don't have a badge.
Okay.
but They have
Okay. Then
a,
that was my next question. No, they don't. Okay. Okay.
they're authorized to write some city ordinances relative to the dog control statutes, but that's the extent of their powers.
Okay. Wow, you guys were busy, huh? 217, huh?
Yeah, I was super surprised to see that number.
Yeah.
And Sergeant Kramer, who kind of oversees the unit, claims that it has a lot to do with COVID. A lot of animals were bought or adopted during 2020 during COVID, and now 2021, and people don't want them anymore, and they're turning them loose or whatever. But he attributed it a lot to that, to the increase.
Yeah.
And I guess we'll know more when we look at the 19 and 18 numbers.
So, and I understand that, you know, the court system need to do their part. So is the deal that you're just gonna keep writing tickets and you can't take the dog? And how many tickets do
So
you need
if
to
the
issue?
dogs, and I'll need some help with this one, but if the
Yeah.
dog's just getting out, then yes, I would say that's the case. We'll have to just keep writing tickets. If it is a situation where the dog's attacking somebody or biting somebody, that changes things, and we can seize the dog on that. We do not seize a dog on every single initial bite. We don't. Our budget would go through the roof, according to Sergeant Kramer. Yeah, so, if it,
One dog that
Go
was a
ahead.
dangerous dog, it had a bite record, it was being bited from family, it its own owners, I should say, getting out loose a couple times. We need that record. I personally seized that dog. We euthanized that dog and bit a child, and it stayed in the hospital 4 days, like over 13 stitches and staples. Like it was a bad bite. It had a history. You can't just see the dog after one bite. Unfortunately.
But that's maybe something we can change in the ordinance, like with the ATVs, right? If you get caught the first time, it's a certain deal. Maybe the second time is an automatic seizure.
Yeah,
That sort of thing. So.
something to that effect, you
Yes.
know, but when you talk about something like, you know, she was saying about 6 times in a month or something, or, you know, it's really, we gotta do something stricter, you know, and not, maybe not necessarily seizure, but I wondered if also if you know, disciplining or stronger fines could also be in there, you know, getting a dog to do an obedience class or something. If you don't comply, we seize the dog, or so, you know what I mean? Because people do love their dogs like family. So I'd hate to say, you know, the dog bites once and we seize, and you know what I mean? Like you do want to be reasonable with people, but you also can't have something that just, you know, has a record like this and we just don't have the tools to deal with it. You know?
You gotta remember that these are gonna be imposed by a judge as well.
Yes.
So, you know, to impose a training session, I don't know, you have to work that, I talked to court counsel, how you work that
Yeah.
into a violation, right?
I don't know if it's realistic, but it was something that crossed my mind, because it's like, you know, there has to be some kind of consequence, you know? I don't know if I want to seize the dog every time, but
I would just say, I'd like to see what the fines are right now for this, because if it's like a $20, $30, $40 fine, then of course the guy's going to keep, you know, letting the dog get out, because it's $40, then I got to go, you know, another $20 to get it from, you know, wherever you're picking the dog up. But if we do a scale of first time it's $100, second time it's $200, third time it's $500, that it's going to deter them and actually make the person probably invest in getting a proper fence. Otherwise, you know, you might as well spend X amount on a fence than, you know, that same amount on just keep getting your dog from, you know, bound.
yeah, exactly.
But what, I'm sorry, what do we have on with in terms of, you know, dog bites and things like that? What's actually, and I probably should have had done a little bit more research on this, but what's on the books right now when, you know, what's the process of when you get a dog that's bitten someone, you know?
We get a dog that bit someone.
Yeah.
In a case, it really, so we get a dog that bit someone. It's usually, if we can't find the owner, we will seize it. It has to be in a 10-day quarantine. If we find the owner, we let them know 10-day quarantine. Obviously, it depends on the situation. Just say it's a regular minor dog, right? Give them back to the owner in a 10-day quarantine, watching signs and rabies, and then you do a rabies report for the health department. We usually do a little incident report, not criminal incident report, and depending on who got bit or if another dog got attacked, depending on the circumstances, the deposition will be made, and we issue a ticket.
Okay. So how do we, I guess, like, then how do we determine, you know, like if it's, you know, when do we get to the point that we actually make the decision, or do we allow that? Is that the court that ultimately decides with euthanizing a dog? I mean, what's?
The police, we can make a decision, but usually if it's just one bite, depending on the history. Like I said, I've had the one dog where I found out later on in my investigation after seizing the dog, because I couldn't find the owner, and the kid didn't want the dog back, and it reasoned with him too. That,
No.
it really depends on the situation. And
Yeah, it's all live streamed on YouTube, so they try to get you close enough. So no, it's fine.
Being watched on the YouTube.
Our 10 watchers, this is, you know,
so
our
it
10 viewing
really
public.
depends on the circumstances. It depends on the history, and like that one dog I had. I personally was able to seize that dog because I couldn't find the owner. And if it were to came up later on that I found out it had 4+ bites of history, I would look into the dangerous dog too.
And then along with that, I guess, so there's a dog that needs to be, I know the county had proposed legislation years ago about folks that, you know, an animal abuse registry. I mean, do we keep a list of individuals like, you know, this is really probably sort of a mean thing to say, but I don't think they're bad dogs. I think they're bad dog owners. I think people are terrible owners and don't train their dog or don't deal with issues with their dog. And, you know, I would be pretty confident that we probably see dogs in instances, repeatedly coming from the same house. There might be someone who owns, a dog, and the dog is not trained, it bites somebody, and then I bet you, if the next dog that they get probably is undisciplined and bites and, wreaks havoc on a neighborhood.
There's not a
Again.
registry for that, unfortunately, no.
Yeah, I would be interested in pursuing something like that. Like if you're a bad owner, you shouldn't, there should be some sort of requirement. Look at, everybody wants to go after things like, guns and owning different things. This is a dog, an untrained dog, a dangerous dog could be considered, exactly. I mean, if
It's a hazard.
if it's injuring people, so I would be curious about seeing that, because if there's, I'd probably have to talk to folks in the court or in the law department about what process goes along with that of, is there training or things like that.
Yeah,
But-
yeah,
but
I
would
think
be-
it's definitely right for a sit down with corp counsel
Yeah.
and the officers involved, because, you guys have the ground knowledge and experience to know what will work and what won't work, but
Yeah.
I would really love to. It's something like I said, I brought it up in 2018 and we didn't really make any positive headway, but, I think if we approach again with some of the people on the committee here, I would really appreciate it.
Yeah, I think the fines, I'm just looking at them, Council Carney, they range from $25 to $500. That's about it.
All the fines?
So, yeah, there's different levels, yeah. But
Well, sure,
I-
I'm fine with saying we should do a scale, but, I'd like to look into, also what we're able to do about, actually enforcing some sort of, we have drug court where we'll let people go on drug charges, but based on the fact that they're going and seeking some sort of help. I mean, I think the same should be done with bad dog owners. I mean,
Well, I think, moving forward, we'll have a conversation with the SPD and the law department to come up with something that is more stricter or something like that, just like you said, we did with ATV legislation. We're gonna look at that. Also, just like we did with noise ordinance, not that, it goes anywhere, but we probably wanna have a conversation with the court as well, just like we did, I don't know if we were there. Chief Cecil, were you there when we had a conversation with the court system about yes, we probably want to have something like that just to also let them know that they got to do their part in enforcing this. So those are the couple of things we will do. Now, on a larger side, what has this been okay from SPD as a department, adding this on as a responsibility?
So, it's been a transition. We've had ups and downs and bumps, but I do feel like we have good supervision. We have two animal cruelty officers that work with our dog control officers now, so I think we are in a good place. And as things come up, we will address them, but I do think we're in a good place.
Okay.
And as our staffing increases, we'll be able to do more.
Okay. Do we know when this back and forth with is it the union that you said with the one position, the managerial position?
Yeah, I do not have a timeline on that.
Okay.
It's been some time now. I think Corp Counsel is going to be the best one to weigh in on when that grievance will take place.
Okay. And obviously, it has, in terms of staffing, it hasn't really, I know SPD is experiencing staffing issues. Now, with this, obviously, if there were 4 positions, and one is now as a managerial or a supervisory position, hasn't really affect in any way, basically, there's no staff problems, right?
Well, I
Other
would
than
say that,
position.
if you only have 4 and you're down 1, you're down 25%. So that's a lot of work that one person can do there. If we happen to have a middle manager supervisor, I would look to our budget to increase our staffing to 4 dog control officers like we've had in the past. But we're down 25%.
Okay.
So I would say that's significant. That's one person's work throughout when you only have 3. Absolutely.
I've also had to help out dog control with like stray dogs and stuff because they just don't have the resources to be 10 places at once. So I mean, I know that's part of their contract to pick up stray dogs, but I've had to do it too. I mean, it's not a problem for me, no, but I'm just stating that they are definitely short-staffed. Another person could help.
Okay, okay. Now, if what I heard from Commissioner LaFave was correct, when she got on the park, you said there were 5 positions?
So I joined the city in January, so the budget was already in process. We had a person retiring at 5, and then the dog control supervisor at that point in time suggested that we eliminate the position. So basically, since I've been here, it's been 4.
Okay, okay. Now, I'm saying that because now, with that 4 position, Chief, is it enough? That's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, no, I understand exactly what
It
you're
should be good.
I do not know the answer to that, right? I'm gonna have to check these numbers against 2018 and 19. These are super high numbers in 2021 compared to 2020. Is this an anomaly? Is this gonna be something we're gonna see going forward? We do that with all of our positions in the police department in different areas. So, right now, we could use the 4th one, and then we'll have to look at the activity indicators to see if that's enough going forward.
Okay.
Other questions, councilors? What's that? All right, well, I mean, with this, it's a big help having all the staff on. 'Cause I know in my neighborhood, there's a dog that usually wandering around the neighborhood, it's usually knocking over garbage and is going through garbage. I mean, it's a friendly dog. It doesn't attack anybody.
Right.
But, neighbors are sick of it if they have to constantly go back after the dog and, pick up after the dog has messed up the garbage. And I understand you said, you're kind of lenient when it comes to a dog that is not, aggressive or anything like that. But it's still a problem.
Yeah, that stray dog we can grab, so I can talk to you after where that is. We can grab that stray dog.
Okay. I mean, it get off, like, I think the fence is too short and it just jump over it.
Oh, it's not a stray then?
No, it's not
Okay,
a stray.
I understand.
It just jump over the fence, wander around, go through garbage and go back home. Yeah. I mean, what it does to people's yard is another story, but, All right. Anything else? All right, we shall continue the conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.